days, now comes the dirty conclusion, I warn you, it's really dirty. In the good old days of really existing socialism, a joke was popular among dissidents. A joke used to illustrate the futility of their protests. In the 15th century Russia, occupied by Mongols, that's the joke, a farmer and his wife walk along a dusty country road. A Mongol warrior on a horse stops at their side and tells the farmer that he will now rape his wife. He then adds, "But since there is a lot of dust on the ground, you should hold my testicles while I'm raping your wife so that they will not get dirty." After the Mongol finishes his job and rides away, the farmer starts to laugh and jump with joy. The surprised wife asks him, "How can you be jumping with joy when I was just brutally raped?" The farmer answers, "But I got him, his balls are full of dust." This sad joke tells of the predicament of dissidents. They thought they were dealing serious blows to the party nomenclatura, but all they were doing were, well, getting a little bit of dust on the nomenclatura's testicles. Is today's critical left all too often not in a similar position? We think we are doing something terribly subversive. We are just. Our task is to discover how to make a step further. Our thesis 11 today should be: critical leftists have hitherto only dirtied with dust the balls of those in power. The point is to cut them off. We can. Don't be too pessimistic here, you know. I claim it will be done in a proper, peaceful, ideological struggle. They will not even be aware of it. They will still shout at us, but all of a sudden their voices will get higher. How clever is it? No, thank you very much. There is a nice French joke against a stupid Englishman, directed at a stupid Englishman who goes to a French restaurant and wants to impress them with his knowledge of French, but gets all the expressions wrong, and it's a wonderful whole line, like the waiter asks him hors d'oeuvre, like you know, appetizer, and he reads it literally, out of work, and answer, no, I'm not hors d'oeuvre, I have my job, I can pay for it, and so on and so on, and at the end, to impress them, saying good night, he wants to appear educated Latin, he says nota bene, you know, like good night. Don't underestimate the way. It's not just you make jokes because life is easy. No, sometimes obscene humor is the only way to survive a really terrifying situation. For example, you remember the city of Srebrenica, where there was a big slaughter, practically all of them were killed. Now I have a Bosnian linguist, a friend, who is doing social linguistics research there, and he told me something wonderful, that among the survivors of Srebrenica, jokes are now exploding about their own predicament. Extremely dirty jokes, like maybe you know it, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, a Bosnian guy who emigrated to Germany returns to Srebrenica and wants to buy a parcel to build a house there, no? And he asks, what's the price down there for space, parcels, how you call it, to build a house? You just should know something. In old Yugoslavia and before, when you buy meat, when you bought meat, usually the butcher asked you, with or without bones. Because usually people were cooking soup, cooking meat in water, and the soup has better taste if you throw in some bones, no? That's the joke. Okay, so the joke is this one. This guy asked, okay, what's the price of piece of land? And the answer is, well, because, you know, Srebrenica is full of buried people. Bones. Do you want it with or without bones? And so on. This is not making fun. The point is that it's still, for them, so traumatic that that's the only way to deal with it. It's too comfortable to say, oh, they suffer, we are all from Srebrenica, and so on. No, they have to live with it, and sometimes through obscene jokes is the only way to do it. The first one is that classical one, you know, on Sabbath, on Saturday, Jewish believers meet in a synagogue and each of them says something. So first, a big rabbi said, "Oh my God, I am nobody. I am not worthy of your attention, God." Then a rich Jewish merchant comes and says, "Oh my God, I'm also nobody. Don't even consider me. I'm not worthy of your attention." Then, I hope you know the joke, a poor Jew stands up and says, "God, I'm also a nobody." And then the rich merchant kicks the rabbi and said, "Who is this guy that he thinks he can also say that he is a nobody?" There is deep truth in this. Whenever somebody apparently humiliates himself and so on, adopts this attitude of, "I despise my nation, my identity, blah, blah," be very careful for looking for secret privilege, what as a Lacanian I would have called surplus enjoyment. No visit, no. But, this is for me, now I will complicate things. Still, I think that Ernst Lubitsch, we, Ljubljana School, Alenko Zupancic, not me, made serious self-criticism lately, that maybe we play too much Hitchcock, there are others, like Ernst Lubitsch. In Ninochka, which is not my favorite Lubitsch, the favorite is, of course, To Be or Not to Be, in Ninochka there is nonetheless, please listen to it, it's an incredible line of dialogue. Alenka Zupancic found it and brought it to my attention. She now wrote a whole text on it. The hero visits in Ninochka a cafeteria and orders coffee without cream. He says, "Coffee without cream, please." Listen what the waiter answers. "Sorry, but we have run out of cream, but we still have milk. Can I then bring you coffee without milk?" This is what Hegelian dialectic is called. And now you will say, this is simple differentiality, no? Like, because, like, now you will say, what's the point? Because in any case, he wants plain coffee. But no, the waiter is right to offer him, because he doesn't want just plain coffee. He wants coffee without something. This negativity, you know, it's like, my favorite, it's not, don't be afraid, I will not repeat myself for 100th time. If I say Montenegro joke, it will not be that, how do Montenegro guys masturbate, no? I have a better one. Why does a Montenegro guy in ex-Yugoslavia, they were famous for being lazy, why does a Montenegro guy always put at his night table a full and an empty glass of water? Because he's too lazy to think in advance, will he be thirsty or not during the night? You see the same genius. Now with your stupid British common sense, you would have said, okay, just put a glass and you drink it or not. No, Montenegro guy is a dialectical. He knows that the absence itself has to be represented, marked by an empty glass. Now,
since there were no dirty jokes, I would nonetheless like to begin with to end with a very dirty joke that I heard, believe it or not, in Ramallah from a Palestinian Christian. They are wonderful people, sense of humor. He told me this joke about Jesus Christ. The night before Jesus was arrested and crucified, he was there praying alone in the tent. Jesus Christ, his followers, apostles, gathered around the tent and started to worry. Like, Christ was still a virgin. He didn't have sex. And they say, my God, our Lord did so much to us, so many great things, and he will die tomorrow, being crucified without any joy and happiness. So why don't we make at least the last evening of Jesus Christ, why don't we bring some joy to him? So they call Mary Magdalene and ask her to go to the tent where Christ is resting and to seduce him. Of course, being who she was, Mary said, oh, with pleasure, and went there. Now, after 5 minutes, Mary Magdalene came out running with a totally horrified cry. And apostles were wondering, what happened there, my God? Is Christ secretly a pervert? Did he torture her or what? No, she explains. Everything went well at the beginning. I slowly undressed, I spread my legs, I showed to Christ my pussy, but then catastrophe started. He said, what a terrible wound is there. He put his hand in and healed it, made it whole, no?
Irish girl called Tana French, a series of crime fiction taking place in Dublin with more or less the same spirit, the same attitude, a kind of a, if I have to invent some stupid title, a kind of a dark neo-feminist crime thrillers. But now of the movie that I recently saw, there is a problem. Often a movie but gives me to think intellectually, but I don't really like it as a movie. For example, the one, Her, with Joachim Venn, in the film at the end, he is the hero together with a girl, I think she's called Amy, but they are both abandoned by their machines. The big enigma here is, and this is what always attracted me, and this is, I think, what my mentor in theory, French psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan, insisted in his crazy thesis, there is no sexual relationship, which means we are never alone, me and my partner. There has to be a third element, a fantasy scene, an intruder. It's only through that mediation of a third element, here in Her, their operating systems, that sex functions. And then I started to think about other variations of this. Like, for example, a perfect, very intelligently made, 20 years old British publicity for beer, which is a wonderful, ironic repetition of an old fairy tale motive, A young girl walks by a stream, sees a frog, and of course, that's what you do in fairy tales. She picks up and kisses the frog, and the frog turns into a prince, charming young man. But then the publicity goes on. The charming young man looks at her, kisses her, and she turns into a can of beer, Like, that's what he really wanted, And then I found here, in the States, a similar but inverted version. Some pretty disgusting, incidentally. Publicity for Taco Bell, publicity for something called quesarito, which is quesadilla and burrito, combination of the two. And it's presented in such an obscene way that if you combine the two, it's really like a penis enwrapped by a vagina. But how is the publicity spot done here? A young guy and a girl sit during lunch break at a table. One has quesadilla, the other burrito, and they look at each other, and then you see each person's dream. Boy looks at her and imagines the future. They start to talk, they get married, have children. Then she looks at him, approaches him in her dream, and takes his piece of burrito or whatever, wraps him up so that she gets a kind of a bisexual completing, and just makes a sign and he disappears, It's similar to that one beer, but what I think is the enigma behind all this is, why do we never get just a couple? Why it always has to be some intruder? And the best Hollywood version of this, I ask all the viewers who are watching us now to download. You can download it for free. It's an American classic movie, Preston Sturges' Lady Eve, where you have the ultimate marriage proposal scene. You have Henry Fonda and Barbara Stanwyck, and a horse standing behind them, and the horse's head is always intruding, and so on and so on. That's the mystery of sex. It's never two. You always need something, an imagined gaze, an element intruding, and so on and so on.